Recycling plastics from trash to treasure with the RePLAST-OECS pilot plastic recycling project brought to you by Unite Caribbean with support from the French Republic and CATS GIZ.
Be a hero. Reuse and recycle plastics.
Good day, I am Stali Pelage and I have with me today Mr. Chamberlain Emmanuel, Head Environmental Cluster Unit, OECS, speaking on plastic pollution in the world. Plastics are used in so many useful ways. How does plastic actually cause pollution?
Mr. Emmanuel answers this question and speaks to the effects of plastics on our lives and the environment.
Well, plastic, there's so many ways it could be harmful to us. For example, by the simple act of burning it creates smoke, which is harmful to our respiratory system. Also, when it gets into our waterways, especially into the sea, in various forms as microplastics or larger particles, it's ingested by the fish and you consume that. It then causes damage to us, leads to cancer and other forms of challenges for human health. Also, it causes flooding, which causes damage to our property, and the whole issue of mosquitoes. If we have too much litter from the plastics, it causes stagnant water, which also perpetuates the mosquitoes.
Is plastic pollution a problem for the whole world?
Yes, certainly. In the sea in particular, the sea tends to swallow the plastic, so to speak. But then the World Bank, in a recent report that they published, they've indicated that by the year 2050, the weight or the mass of plastics in the sea will be 3 times that of fish. Can you imagine?
Is it possible for the whole world to come together to reduce plastic pollution?
Absolutely. There's a lot that we can do at every level, whether it be as a simple citizen or as governments, as private sector. So for example, governments can decide to put regulations, put laws in place to ensure that we minimize the amount of plastic that comes into a country. Also to create incentives to encourage persons to recycle or to use less. And at the private sector level, we can decide in the manufacture and design of various goods to be more sustainable, to think more creatively, about the type of material that we use in our processes, use more recycled materials, use alternative materials, more natural materials, and also in our packaging, for example, to use items that can be used more than once. So it's not just use it once like our bottles of water and toss it out of the window, but it can have a more longer use. Therefore, again, reducing the footprint of the waste in our society. And as individuals, I think most importantly as individuals, the choices that we make. So you make the choice to, for example, use a bowl to get your food. Even if you go into a restaurant to buy and take away, you go with your own bowl and say no to the styrofoam or to the plastic container. And so you have a container that can be reusable every time. You don't toss it away. Also, the choices you make in, say, how you drink your water. Walk with your bottle, and not using those disposable units. So the choices again that we make at a policy level, at the private sector level, and as individuals.
How will the OECS Commission work with RePLAST-OECS project to make sure other countries other than Saint Lucia benefit from it?
The RePLAST is a very, very exciting initiative. We've assisted in developing policies. You have many of our member states who have advanced, say, banning single-use plastics or styrofoam entry into their space and incentives to use alternatives. However, we will still continue to have plastics in our space. So what the RePLAST does is really help us to go from the design, the policies and the talk into real action. We have not yet really all of our states established a system where we can truly collect, separate, and process the plastic. So RePLAST is piloting or demonstrating this, really working with various stakeholders, working with the agencies and communities to develop that system, set it up, and see it into action. So OECS is really monitoring this. We're working hand in hand with RePLAST, taking the data, collecting, the experiences, seeing the best practices and the lessons learned, so that as we get ready to bring on other islands, we can share those lessons with them and they don't have to go through a long or steep learning curve.
Now let's see how much you remember. These are some ways plastic pollution can cause problems for the whole world. Which one does not belong? Is it A, can cause breathing problems? B, can beautify the place? C, encourages mosquito breeding? Or D, can cause cancer? The one which doesn't belong is B, can beautify the place. This has been part of a series on the RePLAST-OECS project, brought to you by Unite Caribbean with support from the French Republic and GIZ.